Yesterday was quite a day for the Cubs, and injuries have really crept up on this team, but they find a way to get it done. It was Hector Neris closing out a game for the second time this season. Is he the future at the closer spot? Dansby Swanson, big home run. Is it time for Dansby to step up without Seiya Suzuki or Cody Bellinger? And how about the young guys? Pete Crow Armstrong, Hollywood Pete's back. Matt Mervis trying to get his first hit. All that right here on the Cubs baseball channel. Oh, and some day baseball at Wrigley. We'll be keeping an eye on. Thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe, and let's get this party started. Go Cubs. There he is, Anthony Pasquale. I'm Mick Gillispie. It's time for the Cubs baseball channel. Hope all of you guys are doing well. At broadcaster Mick, and then whatever yours is. What is it? Ant_Pasquale3.
Yes.
Very complicated. Very complicated for us, Twitter folk. But you can find him on there as well. And man, so much going on right now. And let's get into it. Cubs with a win last night. And we've been worried about Adbert Alzolay. And I'm wondering now, or Adbert Alzolay, he changed his name when he got to the big leagues. Is this Hector Neris' job?
Yeah, it seems like he's the guy with the most experience, right? I think yesterday was his 93rd career save. So he's a guy that's done it before. I like Craig Counsell putting Adbert Alzolay still in some high leverage situations. He pitched the end of the 6th inning and the beginning of the 7th inning, trying to get him. Even if he's not going to be your closer, you need Alzolay to have some confidence. He still needs to be a big part of that bullpen. So I liked what Counsell did with him. And we talked on yesterday's show if it could possibly be Yency Almonte because he finished the game 2 nights ago. Yesterday it was Neris. He's got 2 saves on the year. My guess is moving forward, they might not name a closer per se, but Neris is going to be the guy getting a lot of looks would be my guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like there is a guaranteed closer, and I feel like it's probably going to be more closer by committee who's available. But Al Leiter Jr. is one of the best bets right now. I'm sorry, Mark Leiter Jr. says now we do have Al Leiter with the Rangers, right? The Lighters. But, yeah, Mark Leiter Jr. is one of the best bets in baseball coming out of the bullpen. Gave up a couple hits, but Christopher Morel with a great play over at third base, flashing some leather. If the Cubs are going to stay in contention with all of these star players out, Morel's going to have to step up, and I guess that brings us to Dansby Swanson. Dansby's going to have to step up. And on a day when the wind was blowing in and no one was going to really be able to hit it out, you didn't think, had a 3-run homer in the first inning, and that was the biggest hit of the game.
Yeah, it ended up being all the Cubs needed. After that first inning, they were held scoreless, and they struck out 13 times. So glad they got some runs while they could. But back to what you said about Morel, I heard on the broadcast an interesting question about that. Because he's got a few inches on Madrigal, if Madrigal was playing third, do you think he makes that catch?
No.
I don't either. And that's usually 8th inning, 9th inning, about the time when Counsell goes to Madrigal, but because Morel's spot was due up in the bottom of the 8th, I think Craig let him field in the 8th and then hit in the bottom of the 8th and then bring out Madrigal for the 9th. And of course, it just made him look more like a genius because he snares that line drive and potentially saves the game. You saw Leiter get so pumped up there. I've never seen a pitcher get that pumped up for the second out of an inning.
Yeah,
that's how important it was.
Well, and also he knows how hard that ball was hit.
Yeah, it was scorched. And yeah, I know a lot of people are probably wondering why Mark Leiter Jr. isn't getting the first bit at closer, but he's been so good in the 7th and 8th. I don't want to touch him. Leave him there and at least know that you can get out of those innings.
Yeah. Well, how about the start from Jamison Tyone? It seems like he's kind of motivated to improve on what we saw last year. And I felt like he was one of the biggest disappointments on the team a season ago. And I like him. I mean, I met him. He's a nice guy. He's someone you pull for. but it just wasn't up to standard last year. Got a bit of a slow start with the back, and then, cut the rehab short because the Cubs needed him. 2 starts and 2 really nice jobs.
Yeah, he's been really good. I believe only 2 runs total so far, or 2 earned runs total so far in his 2 outings. He was awesome in the press conference afterward. I was listening to him talk, and he was saying, I wasn't here at the beginning of the year, but just seeing all these injuries, I feel like I have to shoulder some of the weight and make up for lost time by getting deep into innings. We've got 16 games in 16 days coming up. I got to make sure I get into the 6th inning, and he did that last night. Kudos to him. He seems like one of those unspoken leaders. I think just because he's been around the game for so long, he's got really good stuff. So, I mean, he's a guy you and I both thought was going to take a pretty big step this year before the back injury in spring. But I think we're kind of seeing that step already. I think he's going to be good this season.
I hope so. Because he's been really good his first 2 outings, and it's really shown us what he's capable of doing. So Cubs are going to need him, and he's right. I mean, everyone is going to have to step up, or the Cubs are going to fall out of it, because my math, I don't think you're going to have these star players back. I guess Steele, maybe sometime in May, Suzuki maybe late May, and then Bellinger when, 50 days. I mean, that's, June, middle of June. I mean, so it's going to take other guys stepping up. And one of those guys that the Cubs really need is Hollywood Pete. Pete Crow Armstrong, PCA, made his season debut in the outfield playing defense. I think that it's weighed on him the way that things went last year, that he didn't get a hit. I just got this feeling that he's going to get a hit, and he's going to get a lot of hits. He's going to step up, even though he struggled in Iowa. I think he wanted to be in Chicago, and he's got his chance now.
Yeah, I got a question for you, and it was something that I found to be a little bit confusing. And my dad actually brought up a counterpoint that I'll get to if you don't think the same thing that he did. But so they bring in Pete Crow in the 8th inning as a defensive replacement. But the guy he's replacing defensively is the guy who's won the last 2 Gold Gloves in the National League, and Ian Happ. I just found that to be a little bit confusing. If you're bringing him in for defense, wouldn't you rather put him in for probably Canario? So then you could have Happ, Talkman, and Pete Crow out there in the outfield. Why do you think he came in for Happ?
Because Happ's hurt right now, and he's playing through the injury. I mean, like he's got a hamstring. He's fighting through it. And on these cold nights, windy and everything else, the thing that you got to be able to do is try to protect him as much as possible. Think if he goes down, what's the next option? Brennan Davis,
right,
who's on the 40-man, and a lot of people kind of scratching their heads that he survived this long with all of the injuries and the other players that they've had and watched go. Jonathan Perlaza, Nelson Velasquez, and they've kept him. Because I don't think it's going to be Owen Casey right now, or maybe it's Peralta. I don't know, David Peralta. I don't know what the other option is, but they've got to protect him. So even though he's a 2-time Gold Glover, the bottom line is he's not 100%, and I give the guy a lot of credit, Ian Happ, because he's just fighting it out. He's a really tough player. And I know I haven't always been the biggest fan of his game. I've always liked him, but I'm seeing kind of a different type of Ian Happ this year. Guy that you put him in the leadoff, he did a nice job there. A guy that's playing injured and a difference maker. He really has been a difference maker. And so I'm guessing that's why.
Yeah, my dad said the same thing. He said those hamstrings get real tight out in the cold, and we're getting later and later into the night, so you don't want to risk anything. I want to go back to Dansby for a second. You mentioned guys that need to step up. Dansby got the show started, but he's also this kind of unspoken leader. Not even unspoken. He's the leader of this clubhouse, and everybody's talking about Morel improving defensively, and it's because Dansby's been getting there early to work with him and all these things. And you're right. I think he needs to be a big part of this lineup moving forward. And I wonder, going back to PCA and also Matt Mervis, Mervis still looking for that first hit this season. He's really just looks to be pressing at the plate. Michael Busch, a few rough games in a row, I think 0 for his last 6 or 8. So going back to here, what do you think Dansby can offer some of these guys in terms of like, hey, don't need to hit every ball 115 miles an hour. We're just trying to win some ball games.
The thing that makes Dansby a very good player is his complete game, right? The fact that his defense never takes a day off, runs the bases, he's got the leadership thing going. His bat is hot and cold to me. It's there, it's not there, but today it was there. I would think just the calming presence of let's just go out there and try to win the game.
Yeah.
Don't worry about all of the other stuff. If we win, then it was a win for all of us, right? And so many teams have a tough time with players that feel like if it's not on their stat line, then it isn't a successful day. But the only thing that should matter is flying that W flag. And if they're doing that, then however they're getting there, it's a win for the team. And they've done a good job of it. Look, Craig Counsell has this ability to look ahead and kind of get an idea of what they need to do and where they need to be on certain things. And also to figure out a way to take some of the pressure off of players, because you're going to go through streaks where you're not hitting. I mean, Michael Busch hit a home run every day. That's just not how it goes in the big leagues, or everyone would do it, right? So I'm looking for Matt Mervis to have a little bit of a run. I think Pete Crow Armstrong's going to do something. Christopher Morel might have something. He may be fighting an injury too. I know on one of those at bats, it was like he was kind of moving his hand, and I know maybe it's a cold night. I don't know, but he hasn't hit the way that we know he's capable of hitting. And so it's just that one of those stretches right now where you're dealing with a lot of injuries. You've played through your first kind of, I almost feel like it's like an opening act of a concert. We haven't really got to the big act yet, but we're kind of through the first act, and we know what this team looks like. And now we're dealing with a bunch of injuries, and now it's time to figure out what we got there.
Right. And I know they've obviously blown some games due to the bullpen, but Mick, if I told you that on April 25th, the Cubs were 15-9 and Justin Steele has only pitched one game and Seiya Suzuki's been on the shelf for almost 2 weeks, Bellinger's hurt, Morel has struggled, Haps faced some injuries, and I told you they're 15-9, you'd be happy about that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thrilled with the way that this team has started. I'm impressed with Craig Counsell. I totally get it. I see why. It's just over the course of time, you just see little things that he does to put the team in position to win. But the guys have done a nice job too. The pitching has been, with all of the injuries that they've dealt with, and then obviously Kyle Hendricks, who hasn't really been Kyle Hendricks yet. The young guys have come up and given them innings. I think that the bullpen could have been better at times, but they're finding a way to get it done. And they're scoring. And remember, they went on a streak where they were scoring a ton of runs. So there's a lot of depth in this organization. I've said it since we started this channel. Now it's time for those guys to prove it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see if they can continue to do that against the Astros today. Get a day game. Justin Verlander on the mound for the Stros. Probably his first time pitching in Wrigley in a long time, I would guess.
Yeah, really. I mean, they just haven't. It would be back when he was. When would the last time you think be? I mean, I didn't even look this up, but I mean, it's got.
Yeah, I don't think he pitched when he was a Met for that brief time. I don't think he pitched in Wrigley, so it had to have been as a Tiger.
Oh yeah. Man,
which is really far ago.
Yeah, that's our trivia question for today. When's the last
we'll have to find it.
Pitch there. So is somebody's birthday coming up?
Somebody's birthday is today, 24 years old today.
Look at you. You and your brother. How does that go?
Yes, me and my brother. So he's got to work the 9 to 5 today, and I get to go to the Cubs game. So I'm pumped about
it. So you get the better end of the birthday deal.
I get the better end of the birthday. I'm hoping Verlander looks like 2024 Verlander and not 2014 Verlander, and the Cubs get a dub today for the birthday.
So where are you going to sit?
I don't know yet. I am still kind of waiting to figure out if I want to jump at the bleacher tickets or get a little bit closer to home plate. Trying to figure that out, play it by ear. Maybe get in the comments, you guys, and tell me where do you think I should sit. But definitely going to be there and hopefully sing the song on the birthday. And I'm not talking about happy birthday.
Now I better get in one of those beer bats. You told me you had your hand on a beer snake last time.
I did not have the hand on. I was helping pass to make it. So
Oh, you
I
paced
was the relay man for the the cup snake.
the cup snake. Yeah.
And I interviewed one of the workers and asked them what the rule is about cup snakes. So we'll have to put that on the channel somewhere.
That's the kind of reporting that I want done on
Exactly.
Cubs
Yeah, he was a
baseball.
really nice guy, and he gave me the lowdown.
Well, it's at 1:20 today, Cubs and Astros. Cubs looking for a sweep. So let's see here. We won the homestand, right? But a win today, and it becomes a really good homestand. And I was a little concerned after losing 2 games to the hapless Marlins. It does
Yeah.
happen in baseball. But Javier Assad, who I've said I believe earned a spot in the rotation. I think he should be in the rotation. 2-0 record, a 2.11 ERA. And he's going up against one of the best pitchers of this generation, Justin Verlander, coming back from an injury, but a 1-0 record and a 3 ERA. This is a guy that always seems to buckle down when you need a stopper. And for the Astros, what is it, a 4-game losing streak now, and trying to avoid being swept at Wrigley.
Yeah, it's probably one of those games that just law of averages kind of works against the Cubs. You've got the Astros with probably their best pitcher on the mound on a losing streak, desperate for a win. But don't count out the Cubs whenever Javier Assad's on the mound. He's been fantastic this year. One of those guys that when he pitches, you just feel good about your chances to win that day. So I think it's going to be a good pitching matchup. I doubt we'll see a ton of runs today. I think it'll be kind of low scoring. I know Verlander doesn't quite miss bats like he used to, but he still knows how to pitch. And Assad, on the other hand, has been as good as anybody this year. So it's a good pitching matchup for sure.
All right, guys. Hey, we put some videos up on all the roster moves. You saw them. Go back and watch. We talked a lot about the moves, but then what the Cubs also have behind that depth-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I think we hit that pretty good on the channel. If anything pops, we try to jump on and get to it immediately, and we appreciate all of you guys. Also, don't forget, we got Cade Horton, Cubs' top pitching prospect in my mind since the days of Pryor and Wood. And we've got Matt Shaw. So 2 guys that could make an impact on the big league roster sooner than later. Those interviews are up. And if you want, and I said this earlier today, if you want those interviews, if you want me to go out and do those, you got to watch them and share with your Cubs friends. We got to get the views on there. That's how this works. So,
Yeah.
So check them out. Tell me what you think. Get in the comment section. Thank all of you guys, though, for hanging out with us. Let's go for that sweep today, and we will talk to you after the game. Happy birthday, Ant.
Thank you.
And go Cubs.